If They Meet by Daniel Herson. Okay, so we're using the RAFT. So the role is theater. That's the lens we're going to be using for all of this. The theater arts. The A, the audience, 7th and 8th graders, intermediate school students. Fantastic. F, the format. Okay, well, this is going to be more than one slide. So part 1 of this project is going to be having them. They've just finished front desk, and these slides should be looked at as templates, not something that's immediately ready to go up, but this is the basic idea, is that we would have them come up in pairs to reenact conversations at the front desk. Yes, the book is front desk, but I'm also talking about the location front desk. Now, they can improv these. I don't want this to be just read from the text, but they're also not inventing new conversations. This will immediately tell me who understood the book deeply and who maybe didn't even finish. If they're like, oh, Hank arrives at the front desk, and they're like, who's Hank? Interesting question, not one you should have if you've read the whole book. Okay, but that's just kind of a little more than a warm-up to get them into the mindset of this whole thing. Part 2 is going to go beyond just a regular scene study. So we're going to back up and we're going to say, all right, so this is our 4th book we've read this year. We read, right, so front desk we just finished, but we also read The Circuit, Fish in the Tree, and When Stars Are Scattered. Okay? And, but what if they met? Oh, I'm in the wrong place. Imagine if the characters go to the hotel, right? So we have characters from each of the other 3 books, and we start imagining what it would be like if Omar and Hassan had ended up at the front desk. What about Ali, Albert, and Keisha? What if they had ended up there? Suddenly, you have all these possibilities, and way more combinations, because maybe it's not just Maya in this version, Maya and her mom are there. Maybe it's Francisco, Roberto, Papa, and Mama. Oh, the combinations are endless, but they can't be. So, we will break them into groups of 4. Each scene must have 4 characters. Okay? They're going to write the scene. It must be set, again, at the front desk. Maya has to be one of the characters. But we're choosing the combinations, not the students. That's not up to them. The groups get to choose the topic of the conversation. The age of the characters. So this is particularly important when it comes to something like Circuit, where there's like 50 years between when the circuit is set and when front desk is set. So do we age them up, or do we just imagine them all at the ages they are in the story? That's up to them. I still want 2 full pages. At least. There are 4 characters. This isn't a lot. And there's 4 people working on it. So if you did age them, then suddenly you have something where Francisco's older than Lupe's dad. You can do it. That's a choice. No wrong answer. Well, on that point, there's no wrong answer. So then we act them out. And importantly, it's not going to be the group who wrote it. We take those scripts, so this probably isn't even the same day, and we shuffle. And people will now have time to rehearse a little bit. Maybe even memorize. But it doesn't have to be fully off book. It doesn't have to be fully memorized. That's not what we're judging it on. But it's got to be enough that they're familiar with it, so they're not just, again, standing and reading. This will help your dyslexic students. This will help your ENL students, because they never had to actually write anything. Sure, they were part of a collaborative team that was working on the script, but you only need one person typing. And yes, they all will reflect on their experiences in this whole thing. That's great. One last point to help those students. If I know that one of my students that struggles with reading, their Lexile levels are significantly lower, but I know that they read Front Desk, and I know that they read The Circuit, then I'm going to make sure they get in that group, not the book that they didn't finish. That's a test for another day, right? And also, maybe the dyslexic just happens to get Fish in a Tree, right? And so they can speak to their strength, their knowledge of this. It works towards memorization, but also that creative writing. Different kinds of students can be different at different aspects. But why this idea at all? Why can't we just judge Front Desk on Front Desk? Because they've read more than one book. And if we want to understand Maya's story of hope and diversity, then we need to be able to talk about it in terms of other books. Is she only diverse in her own context? I don't think so, and the students shouldn't either. If Francisco's family came in and they realized they couldn't afford it, but they're not Chinese, do they get the free room? That's not for me to answer, but it's a question the students should be able to think about. And we can keep going. We can ask them, how does her hope apply to somebody whose problems aren't financial? What about somebody who struggles with the thing that Maya is so proud of? Reading. In literacy, the person who feels like they are the bicycle. How would she respond to that? What if the mom's in the scene? Would she feel differently meeting somebody who's a native English speaker like Allie, but still can't read at the same level? How's that play out? So there's a lot of interesting things we can talk about here. And having this opportunity to have the characters meet is a really great way to talk about more complicated things than even what the books got to. Okay, thank you so much.